Have you ever walked away from a discussion feeling like you lost, even though you said everything you meant to? That knot in your throat, that feeling of shrinking in your own presence. Maybe you're surrounded by loud voices, people who interrupt, dominate, and mask arrogance as confidence. And maybe you've been told that silence is weakness, that not defending yourself is surrendering, that not reacting means losing. But what if that's a lie? Nietzsche, one of the most misunderstood minds in history, saw a deeper truth. True strength doesn't live in words, but in their absence. Those who speak too much reveal too much. Those who feel the need to argue are already on shaky ground. The world teaches us to fight with words, to justify our every move. But Nietzsche offered a sharper, quieter strategy: power through silence. This video is for those who feel overlooked, invalidated, talked over. For those who keep the peace while others take advantage of their calm. If you've confused your silence with submission, this will change everything. Because silence, when used with intent, isn't weakness, it's power. Why do we feel the need to respond, defend, and prove our worth? Because we've been conditioned to think that silence means defeat. But at the core of that need lies fear, the ego's fear of looking weak, of being rejected, of not being heard. Nietzsche understood that most arguments aren't about truth, they're about control. People argue not because they're confident, but because they're uncertain. And the louder they argue, the more fragile their beliefs usually are. He called this the herd morality, the behavior of people who crave approval, who live by others' opinions, who want to be seen as good, agreeable, and just. But that craving keeps them weak. Real power doesn't come from convincing others. It comes from needing nothing from them. The strong don't need to win arguments. They don't need to be understood. They can be rejected, laughed at, dismissed, and still remain unshaken. That's not submission. That's mastery. When someone shouts and you remain calm, you expose them. When someone mocks and you don't flinch, you take away their power. Silence throws others off balance. It reflects their insecurity. It forces them to face their own noise. If you truly want to win, you must stop playing the game. Nietzsche knew the reactive mind is a controlled mind. The observing mind, the one that watches without flinching, that's where danger lives. So how do we use silence as a weapon without retreating into passivity? Nietzsche had an answer. The Übermensch, the overman, a being who transcends conventional morality and leads not with noise, but with self-command. He does not argue. He does not beg to be understood. He watches. He selects his words with intention. And more importantly, he knows when not to speak at all. The silence of the Übermensch isn't empty. It's heavy. It's loaded with presence. While others shout, he commands respect with nothing but stillness. His calmness exposes the chaos in others. His quiet doesn't mean he's weak. It means he's unshakable. Why? Because silence is language. It says, I don't need to fight. I already won. And that disturbs people. In a society built on noise, those who master silence become kings. They don't wait to react. They choose to stay still because they understand every word is a move, every reaction a risk. And when everyone expects a response, silence becomes power. The world sees silence as awkward, uncomfortable, even threatening. And that's exactly why it works. People feel exposed when you don't react. They begin to project their own fears. Is he judging me? Does she see through me? Their masks begin to crack, not because you attacked, but because you didn't. Manipulators depend on your reaction. Without it, they lose grip. They panic, because your silence breaks their rhythm, their illusion of control. They can't dance alone. Even deeper, silence touches psychological wounds, abandonment, rejection, insignificance. Your calmness reminds them they're not at the center of everything, that their words don't define reality, that they don't control the room. And that's why silence is so uncomfortable, not just for them, but for you too. Because it goes against every instinct you've learned, the instinct to defend, to explain, to be heard. But in resisting that impulse, you gain something rare: dominance over yourself. That is the beginning of true power. In the next part, we'll explore how to use silence not just defensively, but offensively. How to turn restraint into strategy. How to shape your presence so powerfully, words become unnecessary. You've learned that silence is powerful, but now it's time to use it. Not as passive withdrawal, but as a precise weapon. One that disarms, reveals, and commands. The first step: stay silent when your entire being wants to speak. When your ego burns to justify, to defend, to correct, pause. That urge is not strength, it's dependency. Every time you react, you show you're still seeking approval, still playing their game. True silence begins when that need dies. Next, observe. While others talk endlessly, trying to impress, distract, or dominate, you listen. Not to reply, but to read. You hear the fear behind their confidence, the cracks between their words, and you wait. Because when you finally speak, if you speak, it will be precise, surgical, undeniable. If you find this helpful, and this is resonating with you, don't forget to click the subscribe button so you won't miss new videos, coming every other day. Your support truly means a lot. Thank you. Then comes time. Let silence stretch. Let it build tension. While they wait for your response, let them squirm. People fear what they cannot predict. One silent look, one unbroken pause can shake someone more than 10 sentences. Why? Because the mind fills silence with fear, and fear makes people reveal themselves. Once you've mastered that, you gain unpredictability, and the unpredictable is always feared. People start choosing their words more carefully around you. They tread lighter because you're no longer reacting. You're controlling the rhythm. But never confuse this silence with passivity. This isn't about being invisible. It's about being deliberate. Your silence isn't empty. It's charged. It's a weapon you don't swing until the moment is perfect. And when that moment comes, one sentence is enough. One quiet truth, dropped like a stone in still water, can end the conversation. Not because it's loud, but because it lands in truth. And truth doesn't shout. Still, we must face a deeper danger. Because sometimes silence isn't power. It's fear in disguise. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from mastery, but from surrender. A silence born not of presence, but of submission. One where you're being used, drained, dominated, and you don't even realize it. And the worst part? You've convinced yourself it's maturity. You tell yourself that swallowing your frustration is being balanced, that avoiding conflict is wise, that being silent keeps the peace. But what if it's just self-betrayal? Nietzsche saw this clearly. What we often call peace is just our own obedience, dressed in polite silence. And others see it. They notice your ability to tolerate, to not push back, to yield. And they use it. They speak louder, take more, occupy your space, because you never stop them. You tell yourself it's not worth fighting over, but every time you stay silent, you pay a price, and they gain power. This is the silence of slaves, what Nietzsche called the morality of the weak, a value system built around guilt, submission, and being liked. It teaches you to shrink and still feel noble about it. But Nietzsche didn't write for those who want to stay small. He wrote for those ready to break the pattern, to stop participating in their own manipulation. When you let silence swallow you, you don't disappear completely. You just become a reflection of what others want. You lose your edge, you lose your shape, and you forget who you are. That's not strength, that's survival. But the will to power, the true will, is not about controlling others, It's about mastering yourself, regaining authorship over your own life, and choosing silence not because you're afraid, but because you owe no explanations. The silence of fear must die, and in its place, a new kind of silence must rise, the silence of presence, a silence that stands tall, that holds the line, that speaks nothing, yet says everything, the silence of someone who knows who they are and refuses to be shaped by others. That's the silence Nietzsche respected, the stillness of a warrior who's already won before the battle begins. So how do you reach that level? How do you stop being the one who's used and become the one who commands? By becoming what Nietzsche called the Übermensch, the one who transcends the herd, the one who writes their own code, the one who lives not by reaction, but by will. That's who the world needs now, not more talkers, not more explainers, but people who embody silence as presence, as power. Let this sink in. Silence isn't absence. It's authority. It's not a pause between words. It's a full presence that needs no noise. Now ask yourself, how many times have you stayed quiet, not out of strength, but out of guilt? How often have you let others speak for you, decide for you, define you? That ends now. Your silence must change its meaning. It must stop being escape and become a boundary, a statement, a declaration. Not everyone will understand you. That's fine. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be whole. So if you feel this truth, if you're ready to stop shrinking, say it clearly. I choose the silence that commands respect. Not for me, for you. Write it, own it, and then keep going. Because the journey doesn't end here. Your next transformation is just one step away. And with that being said, I will see you in the next one.